Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick here with you as always. Thanks for joining us for episode number 91. Now, as you know, in the past few weeks, my selection of whiskeys that I've found since I recently moved has been pretty sad. But recently I came across something that I've been looking for a while without having to spend a ton of money on shipping to get it. So anyway, I was in the store and came across Jack Daniel's Straight Rye. Yes, this is the culmination of the experiment that was started by Jeff Arnett and folks a few years ago to change the mash bill up because it hadn't been changed in a long time, if ever. So now I believe what they're at is a 70% rye mash bill. And so being above that 51%, call it a rye whiskey being aged 2 years or more. They can call it straight rye. So this is really awesome to see this coming to fruition, because if you'll know my videos on the Jack Daniel's rye experiment, I've been lucky enough to be able to find those bottles as the experiment progressed. So as you can see, the culmination of that for me was the single barrel rye. And then before that, we had the unaged rye and the rested rye. All of those videos you can go and check out. Now what they've got is what I believe to be is a permanent expression of their line. And that is really exceptional. I'm really excited and stoked that they bottled it at 90 proof. So they gave us a little bit higher ABV, which is nice. So 45% ABV. Still looks like the same typical Jack Daniel's bottle that you'd find with the original black label. All the same information that you would see on the other one, other than that it's a rye, and then just talking about the process of making it. So the same sugar maple charcoal mellowing process and the like. Unlike the original, we do have the straight rye on the bottle, so that's good to know, some provenance there. So let's go in, look at the color. We've got a nice gold and amber coppery tones to it. Let's go in for the nose. Now, first thing right off the bat on the nose, you get that traditional Jack Daniel's smell. And whether it's the Lynchburg process of mellowing through the huge vats of charcoal, or whether it's their barrels, I'm tending to lean towards it's their, they have their own barrels that they make in-house and charring those barrels. So I think it has a lot to do with the wood that it's aged in to give that traditional Jack Daniel's aroma to it on the nose. But that's the first thing that pops off there. Really nice deep brown sugar, caramel, candy apple notes. Overtly sweet, which is traditional to the Jack Daniel's original. That's definitely a staple of that smell. If you've had this before, it's almost recognizable amongst dozens of whiskeys. If you were to do a blind smell test of them, you could probably point out right away which was the Jack Daniel's product. Just really nice, full, aromatic, those traditional, I like to call it the campfire notes, a little wood smoke in there. You got the s'mores with the vanilla and cinnamon sugar notes in there, the brown sugar. Just absolutely great aroma. So let's go in for the taste. Now, I had a little bit of this last night, and I have to say, I was completely taken aback by what the end result is and was for me last night when I first tried this. Let me just start off with the price. All right, so it's $33 landed, out the door. where I am, which includes a pretty high local tax. I've seen it other places in the mid to upper $20 range. Right off the bat, if you don't take away anything else from this review, if you skip all the notes and everything like that, just know that this is an exceptional value for your money. Where they've ended up with this whiskey is absolutely phenomenal. It's actually one of the best rye whiskeys that I've had, and I don't say that lightly because I really enjoy the ryes that I've had. The Dad's Hat and Whistle Pig are two of my favorite ryes, but this is right up there, neck and neck with those as my favorite. The thing that gets me is this really robust black licorice, cherry cola notes in there, but then it evolves into this tobacco smoke and pine needles and mint, and it just absolutely blows your mind that they've incorporated such a deep, rich flavor with this rye whiskey. Having tasted the unaged and the rested, and then the single barrel rye, this is really a phenomenal place to land for, a permanent expression. And the great thing about this whiskey is that there's a journey to it. So when you sip it at first, you're getting those really sweet honey, vanilla, caramel, candied apple, caramel apple notes. And it quickly, as you drink it and you sip it and give it some more time, in your mouth before you swallow, then you're starting to transition to these more earthy notes, the pine needle and molasses, brown sugar, and like I already said, the tobacco smoke and mint in there. Just absolutely phenomenal. It's a great journey. This is beautiful spiciness too that accompanies the whole package. And it's really got this really spry pine needle note that I mentioned before. Real syrupy. The mouthfeel is nice. It's got a little bit of body to it. It's not extremely, thin, which is nice. You don't want it to go down too quick. This is a whiskey that I could sit here and sip a good portion of this bottle without even noticing, really, because it's such a great, welcoming, slow experience. I know a lot of people throw smooth around, and the journey or the process of drinking this is smooth in and of itself. It's a word that's overused, but in the sense of just it being a really thoughtful journey, if that makes sense, when you're drinking your whiskey. It's one that you can take time with. It's not one that leaves, 2 seconds after you've tasted it and you've got absolutely no aftertaste. The finish is nearly non-existent. This is one that sticks around for a while. You can still taste it, still get some of those vanilla, traditional Jack Daniel's notes that are in there, the honeyed sweetness and that sort of thing. But it's the middle and beginning of the journey which are really unique for this rye. They talk a lot about craft whiskeys, and the art of all of these smaller distilleries that are innovating, with new oak, or not new oak, but seasoning different types of finishes, different grain, mash bill ratios, doing things more with wheat and oats and that sort of thing, experimenting along those lines. But people forget about the big guys in the game, and they just sort of get shoved to the side, because they're so big and, have such a huge market share and presence that they're just seen as these huge corporate entities, and a lot of the times that gets a negative stigma as, they're just the big guys, they're just out to make money, that sort of thing. I don't pay attention as much as I do the little guys, support, the small businesses and, the innovators. But the one thing that you really have to put in perspective is that the big guys are innovating as well. Can you imagine being the guy, the master distiller, Jeff Arnett at Jack Daniels, and if he was the one who, put forth the idea that they should explore this, but the fact that I believe in like 125 years or something like that, they haven't made any major changes to the mash bill itself. I mean, it gets changed all the time with a bunch of different companies, and here you have Jack Daniels that's put out a consistent product and has had no real need to change mash bill wise because what they have works so phenomenally well. And here they are taking a risk, understanding that people want more, they want to experiment with different things, noticing that rye a few years ago started to get more noticed by people. People wanted to see more expressions, and understanding that that's where the trend was going and being able to follow that. And to top that off, they gave us an insight into that experience, which a lot of people don't do. The smaller distilleries can't always do that. They need to age all of that product, and they don't have the inventory to be able to, send out a limited range of, unaged bottles or, ones that have aged for a little bit, and they just want to give people a taste for where things are currently before they release a final, permanent line. But Jack Daniels has done that. They sent out the unaged rye, they sent out the rested rye, and they sent out 2 batches of it. And then it took a little time for the single barrel rye to come out. Why? Because they wanted to make sure that it was right, and nobody can blame them for that. And now here you have this really inexpensive rye whiskey from a huge player in the whiskey and spirits industry. They've gone and changed the mash bill after, over a century and a quarter. They're bottling at 90 proof. It's a straight rye whiskey. They've got a lot of things going for it, and they're, the big guy doing great things. And, really credit has to go to them. I think this is one of the real standouts for this year as a whiskey. And I hope that, and I know awards are, subjected to the people that are judging it, but that they deserve a lot of credit and accolades for this whiskey and certainly their journey. And I hope to see more about that. So, as far as the score, I'm going to go 97 because why not? So, anyway, I'd really like to get back to this, and you probably don't want to see me sit here and sip another glass or 2 or 3 of this on camera. So, I'm going to part ways with you now, hoping that if you peruse your local whiskey shops or grocery stores or wherever you get your spirits from, that you'll come across this and give it a try and let me know what you think. I'd really be interested to see if people have had such a good experience as I have had with this. So, with that, if you're going to drink responsibly, as always, and we'll see you next week.